What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark and this is 360 Finance. In today's video, we're going to be talking about CFA exam day, in particular what to expect on that day, what the schedule is like, and just a couple tips and tricks that I have in terms of being successful on exam day, and a couple little things which you might not think of, which will hopefully help you out. I'm doing this video because I recently got a comment asking me if I could outline what CFA exam day is like from start to finish. So I'm going to do my best to go through that. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Okay, so first things first, the comment asked for the exam schedule from start to finish, and here it is up on the screen. So the first 20 minutes, obviously get there, before we even jump into that, obviously make sure you get here 30 minutes in advance. Bring your passport and dress comfortably because you're going to be sitting down basically answering questions for a long time. But essentially, here is the schedule up on the screen. So the first 20 minutes, they essentially just give you, the intro will read you what you can and can't do. They'll have, check you for any personal items, and then they'll introduce you to the newly computer-based exam software, which is really, I think it's actually a positive for the Institute. To talk a little bit more about that at the end, but they just give you a quick intro, give you your pledge, and then you basically walk into the room, okay? You have to wait till everyone's prepared so you all start at the same time, and then content phase 1 begins, and you are allotted 2 hours and 15 minutes to get through that, okay? There is an optional break in between, so you can basically leave the exam room, go eat some lunch, I don't know, have a bit of water, coffee, whatever you need, and definitely take that optional break. It'll help you just refocus mentally and get back in the right state of mind to be just crushing through multiple choice questions, of course. Content section number 2. So one thing in particular I found for both level 1 and 2 when I wrote, I definitely experienced a little bit of mental fatigue near the end, just sitting there doing questions, 4.5 hours, it mentally drains you, right? You're reading through complex questions and situations and trying to answer all those questions. So mental fatigue is inevitable, so make sure you take that, 30 minutes just to reset yourself mentally, and then the last 10 minutes is the survey and conclusion. And definitely do the survey. It helps, the Institute as well as many other people look into some of the prevailing factors that affect the exam and helps them make the exam better over time as well. That's essentially the schedule. On the second tab here, there's a couple other things, this is all on the CFA website. So just in terms of that comment I got, you can find all this information on the CFA Institute website. So several months prior to the exam, just make sure you have a passport. Month prior to the exam, plan your travel route. How ridiculous does that sound? I guess just make sure you're able to get there with enough time in advance, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. Obviously, they recommend 30 minutes. During the week prior to the exam, figure out, what you're going to bring on exam day in terms of your lunch, what you're going to wear, and then items to bring on exam day. So I'll just, I'll leave this screen here just so you can read through it, but that's essentially it, okay? So from start to finish, about 4.5 hours for the total content sections, and you get a half-hour break in between and then half-hour before, right, to get all the info and stuff like that. So in total, pretty long day, not a full work day, of course, but a long day of answering questions, okay? We'll just put it that way. So with that being said, I want to get into the 5 tips that I have in terms of what can help you succeed on exam day. The first one is not necessarily a tip for exam day. It's just make sure to do maybe a light review the day before. I've seen on a couple other different channels, they tell you not to study at all. Both times I wrote the exam, I did kind of a minor review the day before, but just made sure I got lots of sleep as well. So just to make sure you're mentally focused and prepared and have all the energy you need. Lots of sleep. Enjoy that day. Don't spend the whole day reviewing, maybe spend an hour, maybe 2 at most, because basically if you're not prepared by the last day before the exam, you're not going to be prepared for the exam, right? The details of this exam are just so voluminous, so light review the day before would be my recommendation. Tip number 2 would be to have no coffee in the morning. So if you work in some sort of corporate job, you're probably used to having a coffee or a tea or something before the morning. My recommendation would be to not have the coffee. Basically, within, half an hour into the exam, I had to shit my pants. That's a pretty crappy feeling, if you know what I mean. Definitely don't do the coffee. That's something I'm definitely not going to do for level 3 or if I have to read level 2 again. Also, make sure to just have a light lunch too, because same thing for when you go into the second portion of the exam, you're there for a couple hours. You don't want to be feeling stomach rumblings as you're writing the exam. Just a terrible feeling, and also might incentivize you to finish the questions quicker, right? So avoid that that, don't have a coffee in the morning, and also have a light lunch. Don't forget to recharge during that 30-minute break as well, because it just helps you reset mentally, as I already said. Third tip of the day would be to skip questions you don't know and come back to them. So one thing that's good about the computer-based software is you can actually just bookmark the questions and come back to them. It's not like a Scantron where you have to like put a star on the exam sheet or something like that. You can just neatly bookmark them and then come back to all the questions which you've bookmarked in the past, and it's pretty straightforward. So I wouldn't waste any time on something you don't know right off the bat, so don't spend too much time on it. Use your time effectively and come back to the questions you don't know, obviously. I think that's a pretty straightforward one. Fourth tip is to use the full time slot. So the 2 hours and 15 minutes is plenty to get all those questions done. I believe it's appropriate. And one thing that I would caution or recommend is if you finish all the questions early, don't just walk out, review them, and try to use that full time slot. There's definitely a few questions, when I went through both levels of this exam. If you stare at a question long enough and try to brainstorm about ideas about how to solve the question, definitely after I had completed my exams, I came back to questions which I still weren't 100% sure on, and there's different things that came to my head. So try to use the full time slot. Don't try to rush yourself out of there. I know certain questions you might feel hopeless, like you'll never get the answer, but come back to the questions you don't know. You never know if something's going to come back to you, in the last few minutes of the exam or so. Use the full time slot would be my fourth tip. Fifth tip would be to just have fun. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, this is just a new exam, right? Like, if you don't pass it, it's really not the end of the world. Tons of people have been completely successful in their corporate lives without the CFA. So just enjoy the day. I mean, you spent tons of time probably studying for this exam. If you pass, you fail, it's really not a big deal. So just enjoy that exam day. All the hard work is going to pay off. Also, one last thing, if you guys are studying for CFA Level 1 right now, use coupon code MARK20 to get 20% off AnalystPrep materials in the description. Okay, so hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.